But I also think part of it is when your best players are giving you star performances, it just feels like everything is working the way it should. And that's what the Niners had, right? George Kittle, 4 for 84, 2 touchdowns, 2 huge plays. And I saw somebody say before the game, like, Kittle loves Mexico because Mexico loves Kittle. I don't know if you saw this that Schefter tweeted, but did you see this? The top selling jerseys in Mexico: 1, Josh Allen; 2, George Kittle; 3, TJ Watt; 4, Mac Jones.
Feels like that's some lie.
5, Nick Bosa. Well, somebody in the replies, some replies were funny. Somebody in the replies said, well, they all bought the Mac Jones jerseys when they thought he was going to be a Niner.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mac Jones on the list. But
God, every time I want to hate Twitter,
I know like the replies are just, and it was multiple people just talking about Mac Jones in the replies. Mac Jones, Mac Jones, Mac Jones.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Kittle is, I mean, obviously the wrestling element. He met some like famous wrestler. My girlfriend said tonight when he was going nuts, he is kind of a showman. And I said, well, yeah, he thinks he's kind of in the WWE. So, yeah. But part of that element is like, isn't he kind of made for Mexico? Right? I mean, he's like The Rock, but he plays in the NFL. I mean, he's kind of, it feels like he's a little gronky. It feels like he's cutting, what are they called when you're like talking shit about someone else? He's just cutting the promos, he's just cutting like all the wrestlers did. Yeah. Like he's born for that. But what he backs it up, and Gronk always did too, is at any single moment he can have multiple touchdowns and kick the shit out of whoever he's playing. A couple times a night, and this is where his value is almost understated. And you and I often talk about Kelsey like he's just a completely different player. Kelsey's like Shady McCoy, like he's looking to juke you out. Kittle caught a ball today in the underneath, and he saw, I don't know if it was a linebacker or safety. He didn't fucking hesitate. He like accelerated, lowered the shoulder, and said, motherfucker, you're going for a ride, and took him 3 or 4 yards forward. And then his gang came and kind of like stopped him. Kittle looks to punish. So like him and Kelsey, he doesn't play. Now listen, Travis's style is definitely more sustainable when you're avoiding contact. But part of what George brings to the Niners and who they are is that he is a punishing player.
I thought
the play I'm talking about.
I do, yeah. And I thought on the second touchdown he was looking for contact, and nobody on the Cardinals wanted to give it to him. When he caught the ball, you could hear the crowd, and it felt to me like, when you would play when you play a video game where you can boost and you get faster, you get stronger, whatever the case is. I think of NBA Jam, but that reference might be too old for a lot of our listeners and viewers. But I think right in everybody's wheelhouse.
Mario Kart
Turbo. You could hear the crowd getting louder, and it felt like George was like drawing power from the crowd. It just sounded and looked really cool because he kept accelerating, looking for contact. Then Debo, you get Debo the ball. Now I hated the early Debo jet sweep on 3rd down when you've got all these, you can just, Kyle Shanahan, this offense is like a gun that shoots out 6 different arrows all at once.
It's hard to talk shit about that play because the other play that was somewhat similar worked for a touchdown.
I know. So I can't talk shit about it, but Debo was really good.
I'm with you. I'm talking shit about it. It was terrible play, but then it works the other way.
Plays. Yeah, I know. Ayuk does this all the time when you watch the game. You're like, Ayuk is breaking out again. And you check the box score. It's like 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. But to get open on the goal line is very difficult, right? To be a red zone target when you're not a jumper is very difficult. But Ayuk, he can jump because he has long arms. So that's not how he scores in the red zone. He gets open in, if the red zone is a small area, he gets open in small areas. He did it last week, dropped the touchdown. He did it twice in this game, especially that first route was sick. So he is a rare red zone target who is not a vertical target in the red zone. That's very unique. And then the 1-2 punch, and it is a 1-2 punch.
6 touchdowns, guy. Ayuk 6 touchdowns. 10 games, 6 touchdowns. Yeah. Are we talking about a double-digit touchdown guy?
Yeah, we are, especially at this rate. And I think when Kittle is catching the football, it really opens a lot of things up. It's just when it's Kittle plus Debo plus Ayuk plus the running backs. And the running backs are, I think tonight was, you really could feel kind of what it is. Is Elijah Mitchell going to be like, he's not going to be a closer, because in a close game, McCaffrey's going to play late too. But it's almost like they're like tandem pitchers if pitchers were allowed to come back into games. Here's what happened. Here's what Shanahan did tonight. So Elijah Mitchell had 9 carries for 59 yards. That is 6.6 yards per carry. McCaffrey had 7 for 39. That's almost 6 yards a carry. McCaffrey also had 7 catches for 67 yards. But the split of when they were used, and you could see it when Mitchell came into the game. So Elijah Mitchell, 9 carries, 8 of them were in the second half. So he came in at 7,000 feet. You know the defense is gassed, and he came in just fresh legs.
Well, I think Troy mentioned that. Like, we haven't really seen him. He wasn't playing.
He had 1 touch in the first half. McCaffrey, and again, this isn't the best example because, you wouldn't play him in the second half that much anyway. He had 14 touches. 10 of his touches were in the first half. So basically you had kind of a first half back and a second half back, but each one also mixed in the other half a little. Mitchell less in the first half than McCaffrey did in the second half. But that's, the idea that Niners have
how many touches for Debo?
7, 3, and 7 catches. So 10, 3 runs, 7 catches, 9 targets.
So it's a pretty good balance between the 3 guys that are going to take the most punishment, right? The 2 running backs and him. Because Debo just inevitably is going to get a lot of hits, like even when he catches the ball in the middle.
If you want to hear the targets, like Mitchell, 9 carries, McCaffrey, 14 touches, Kittle, 6 targets, Debo, 9 targets, Ayuk, 4 targets. Buck Mason ran hard.
I think Andy Reid's a great example of this. Is people say he doesn't run the ball, but he runs so many screens. And in his mind, a screen is our run play. And Bill goes back to Bill Walsh. It's about the touches, not the balance of run pass. So to me, it's just get your best players the ball. And it felt tonight was like, God, we're not overthinking this. And not that Kyle doesn't, because he will run the ball, and some of his best players are always his running backs. But it feels like when it's just run, pass, it just kind of limits yourself. And I thought just his balance. And I understand that he's not typically going to throw it just like consistently as much when the game is in the balance. But I do think he had to be tonight thinking for a split second, like, this is an advantage we have, right? How many teams are rolling out like Jalen Ramsey, Richard Sherman, or Darrelle Revis to cover our guys? Like, most teams do not have an Isaiah Simmons to run with George Kittle. Like most teams. So if you're comfortable enough to do that against Budda Baker and Isaiah Simmons, I just don't see, like, next week, Honey Badger, like, he's not the Honey Badger of 6-7 years ago, right? The Saints defense is a shell of itself. Tampa's not quite the same. Miami's defense is terrible. Like, one of your advantages is, and when you spread it out, you are running pretty high percentage pass plays, right? You are not running like Patrick Mahomes, 360, throw it deep. You're running like slants to McCaffrey. I love those type plays. That's all I'm asking for. Because I saw last time we talked about this last week, I saw a lot of people in the comments go like, MIDDLEKAUFF, you think you're smarter than Kyle? No, it's just basic football. He fundamentally loves to run the ball. And I get it. Like, I'm not against it. But you saw tonight when you go 4 or 5 wide with 11, 19, 23, and 85, like, who the fuck? Christian McCaffrey, who has literally been around the highest level of football for decades, said like a month ago, I looked around the huddle, I thought I was at a Pro Bowl. So it's like, this isn't, I'm not randomly, I wouldn't say this if these were just average guys. You have huge advantages with these players, their ability to get open. And I would say their comfortability going over the middle. Because I would say Ayuk and Debo are just very, very comfortable going over the middle, which is pretty rare for a lot of receivers. There were moments, I love Devontae Adams. I think he's a Hall of Fame level player. There were a couple of moments last night, right, when he was just like, in fairness, Justin Simmons will kill you, but it was, Derek kind of laying him out.
Well, the one play late, which I thought was definitely a catchable ball that he did not catch. Yeah.
In our younger years, right, when we were growing up watching sports in the 90s, like it wasn't a safe place to go because you would get killed.
And guys today would say to us, it's still not a safe place to go, right?
100%.
Unsafe, but
would the Niners be as confident going over the middle back in like 96 against Elway, or I mean, not Elway,
Steve Atwater?
Yeah, Atwater and John Lynch. Because you just YouTube their highlights, and it's like people were laying on the ground for a while.
Steve Atwater was always the guy.
I don't think they were doing taunting plays when you looked over the dead body.
No. What was the taunting today?
He pointed at him like, you can't cover me. You can't cover me. It's like, come on, guys. I know. I thought he was being truthful. Like, no one can cover him.
It does say something that like Budda Baker, who is a baller, is like one of the more dangerous players in the league, right? And he's not that big.
But he also got pancaked by Trent Williams.
Yeah, everybody gets pancaked by Ronnie Lott.